Are you leaving me?
We're all leaving. You feel me with you right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. Good morning. Good afternoon for the ones that are in a different time zone. So we're going to start in a couple of minutes. We're waiting for more participants. So make yourself comfortable. Go to have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a cup of your favorite drink. And we will meet in a couple of minutes so we can start. So welcome all. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos todos. Vamos a empezar en 2 minutitos. Esperaremos a que se sumen más participantes. Pueden aprovechar este tiempo para ir por una taza de café, su bebida favorita, para disfrutar la sesión. Comenzaremos en breve. Perfect. So we're going to start as we have a lot of participants already here. So thank you all for connecting to this second session. We're very excited to have you here. We give you this warm welcome so you can get inspired by all the workshops and the content that we're going to have today. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos. Estamos muy contentos de poder estar con ustedes un día más en este día donde nos vamos a inspirar con diferentes talleres y también con diferentes contenidos que nos van a compartir los mentores del día de hoy. So first we start, we want to welcome you to this session. we're gonna record this session for the ones that are going to see it afterwards. And also, we are telling you that this session is being transmitted on YouTube live, so you can watch it after the session as well. So then you won't miss any content. Esta sesión va a ser grabada y también va a ser transmitida vía YouTube. Lo van a poder revisar más tarde para aquellos en su equipo que quizás no están conectadas o conectados el día de hoy. So we welcome you to this second day of technical workshops. This second day is very exciting because we're going to meet some of the mentors that are going to present us technical content about how can we improve our solutions, how can we co-create our solutions to make them more holistic and aligned to these judgment criteria that we met yesterday. So today we're going to have a lot of workshops with very talented people that will inspire you the most. So before starting, we have these agreements, as we mentioned yesterday, to make this collective digital convivence more fortunate for all of us. So we're going to ask you, if you are not speaking, to keep your microphone on mute so we can avoid any background noise. We also remind you, if you feel comfortable and your Wi-Fi allows you to turn on your camera so we can feel more close to each other. We know that we are from different countries here. So if we have our cameras on, we will feel more as if we were together in the same room. So that would be great. And also, in case you have any question, please ask us through the chat. So the chat will be our main communication tool. So any observation or question or technical trouble that you may face, please let us know in the chat and my colleagues are going to help you solve it. Entonces, tenemos algunos acuerdos para la sesión para poder justamente convivir de una manera digital más amena. El primero es, si no estamos participando, mantener nuestro micrófono en silencio para poder evitar cualquier tipo de sonidos en el atrás. También les pedimos, por favor, si su conexión les permite y se sienten cómodos, encender su cámara para poder sentirnos más cerca en esta virtualidad y poder convivir de una mejor manera. Y les recordamos que nuestra vía de comunicación principal va a ser el chat, entonces cualquier pregunta que tengan, observación o problema técnico, por favor escríbanlo en el chat para poder apoyarles desde acá. So as I was mentioning, this session will be recorded. So if you have to leave or if one of your teammates can't make it to the session, you can watch the video later and also will be transmitted on YouTube. So we want to remind you the importance of sharing on social media with the hashtag #BitcoinBankathon, so we can make this buzz on social media and make people aware that we are designing these solutions for these challenges that we're going to remind you today. So some people have already shared on social media this. They made a little video, they are using the hashtag, so get inspired by them and do it. We invite you to start sharing on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, your social media of preference, so you can be more close to this prize of the social media hero. You remember there is a prize for a social media hero, so start doing that. Become an influencer in these days so you can positionate the Bitcoin Bankathon and we can make this community bigger through social media. Entonces les invitamos a compartir en las redes sociales, pueden compartir en Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, su red social favorita con el hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon, para que podamos empezar a generar este ruido en redes sociales y a que la comunidad sea mucho más visible. Ya hay personas que han subido videos, que han subido fotos del taller que tuvimos ayer, que han continuado la conversación en las redes sociales. Recuerden, hay un premio para el héroe o la heroína de las redes sociales. Les invitamos a que sigan compartiendo para hacer esta comunidad digital mucho más grande. So don't miss the hashtag and start using it on your social media. So if you remember, this creative journey was presented yesterday for the program. So we are still at the beginning of this creative journey. We are now in the tech workshops that we're going to leave today, and we still have mentorship sessions, other workshops on UX, and the pitch workshop, of course. So then we can prepare for the final selection and the pricing for the different winners. So we are on the second day of this creative journey. So feel inspired, we still have time, find your team, start co-creating your idea so you can be prepared for the final pitching session that will take place in a couple of weeks. So, este es el inicio del programa todavía. Como recordamos, ayer vivimos este viaje creativo. Estamos en el segundo punto en los technical workshops y todavía tendremos más sesiones para que puedan fortalecer su proyecto, su idea y puedan acercarse a esos premios que queremos todas y todos ganar en las próximas semanas. So we're going to do a quick check-in so we can see how we entered to the session. So I'm going to ask you to be really proactive so we can know that you are here and that you are present at the session. So I'm gonna ask you, which challenge are you and your team working for? So if you already have your team and your teammates, what challenge did you select so you can design your solution? Please let us know through the chat so we can start reading which challenge is more popular or which challenge has more confidence, for example. So Lisbeth is sharing with us that she is working with the team in Empower Merchants. So great, thank you, Lisbeth, for sharing this. Emiliana as well is working on Empower Merchants. Mauricio tells us that he's working on building the next neobank. So thank you, Mauricio. Jesus says again, Empower Merchants. So we have a lot of people, maybe they are from the same team, but we have more people working on this. So let us know on the chat. Pak Lung tells us that he's working on building the next neobank and also redesign remittances. So thank you for sharing this. Nelson as well is in this challenge. Alex as well. Emma, it's on number 5 as well. Marcos is in number 1 and number 2. So we have diversity here. So let us know which challenge are you selecting. We want to know also on YouTube. So on YouTube, you can share on the chat which challenge are you working on. Josh is telling us as well that redesign remittances is his challenge. So thank you all for sharing this. We're going to talk about more of the challenges, and of course, all the technical workshops that we're having today will add value for your solution in these challenges. Déjenos saber en el chat su reto que seleccionaron con su equipo o el reto que les interesa resolver en este Bitcoin Bankathon para que podamos conocernos un poco más. Valentín tells us Women and Merchants Empowerment Challenges. So their team, Grow on Chain, is the one that selected this. So thank you. David is telling us as well to build the next neobank. So we can see that there's diversity. So there's diversity in the challenges that you selected. So thank you all. Continue sharing on the chat for the people that are arriving to the session. Continue sharing on YouTube so we can read them as well over there. And now we're gonna remind you some important points that are related to these challenges. So some of you already find a team. Yesterday was a space for networking between talents, so you can look out for this missing talent that you would have, or you are looking for a team, so you have that time yesterday. We remind you the importance of finding a team. So in case you are still looking for teammates, or in case you are looking for a team, you can always go to Discord, to the channel, find a team, and there you can put your value proposition, the talent that you bring, or the talent that you are missing on your team. So you can find the right talent and the right people for this Bankathon. So on Discord, remember, there is the channel, find a team. There you can post your needs or the talent that you are bringing. And some people can make the connection so you can start creating or complementing your team. If you met someone in the yesterday's session, you can look out for a username on the top right part of Discord. So you can look it here and look for their name and then contact them directly. Entonces, si aún no tienen un equipo o si están buscando a un miembro para complementar su equipo, siempre pueden ir al canal Find a Team, encuentra un equipo en Discord para que puedan poner qué talento traen a la mesa o qué talento les hace falta en su equipo para poder reclutar a estas personas y poder complementar todas las ideas que están generando. Si conocen a un usuario o ayer en la sesión tuvieron oportunidad de conocer a alguien, lo pueden buscar siempre en la parte superior derecha de Discord, donde está la lupa. Pueden escribir su nombre o su nombre de usuario y contactarlo directamente. So if you already have a team and you want to register your team, because once you have the 6 members that is allowed for this Bankathon, you should register so you can be participating in this. So you go to the dev post link that we shared and that we are going to share as well on the chat right now to register your team. So to register your team, you go to this page, to this website, and then you select Start a Project or My Projects in case you already registered. So there you click, and then you can follow up the instructions so you can register all your teammates. Remember to use your legal information so we can know who is who, not your username on Discord. You then click on Create a Project and add your teammates to the project, your legal names of the teammates, so we can know who is participating in which challenge and on which teammates. So then share the email or invite the link to the participants of your team so you can complement each other information. So these are the instructions for registering your team. I'm gonna say this really quick in Spanish. Entonces, en caso de que vayan a registrar a su equipo, pueden hacerlo ya directamente en esta página de DevPost, donde van a entrar a esta pestaña y van a poder seleccionar Start Project or My Projects para que puedan empezar a registrarlos. Vamos a compartir este link en el chat para que puedan entrar a registrar a su equipo. Una vez que den clic aquí, van a dar clic en crear un proyecto o create a project, y pueden agregar ahí a los miembros de su equipo para que puedan registrarse. Pueden compartir esto vía email o compartir el link que les va a aparecer para registrarlos. Then as well, here you can find the agenda for the next workshops that we're having. So you know that you have to schedule them. It's very important that you participate here so you can have all the feedback and all the ideas to complement your project and they have more possibilities to win. También en este link van a poder consultar la agenda para que estén al tanto de los talleres que tendremos en las próximas semanas y en los próximos días y puedan complementar su idea y tener feedback y también poder llevar su idea a un siguiente nivel para tener más probabilidades de ganar. Entonces, remember to find your teammates. It's only 6 people that are allowed on the teams. Go to DevPost to register them once you are there. If you have any question or any trouble, technical issue accessing Discord or accessing DevPost for registering your team, please let us know through the chat and the team will help you to solve this. Entonces, no olviden buscar a esos miembros de su equipo. Son 6 personas que son permitidas en cada equipo. Una vez que los tengan, vayan a DevPost para poder registrarlos. Si tienen algún problema entrando a Discord o a DevPost, por favor, háganoslo saber en el chat y les vamos a poder apoyar para que lo resuelvan. So, now that we know that we have all these reminders about the challenges, about the process of finding a team or registering a team, we are going now to the agenda for the day. So I'm going to repeat again. If you have any question, please let us know through the chat. So we're going to have different workshops today so we can get inspired about the technology that we can use. How can we improve the idea that we have? How can we develop it so we can make it more stronger for the prizes in case we want to win, of course. So we're going to have 3 workshops today that are going to inspire us with different topics. So we're going to have different keynote speakers that are going to inspire us and give us some great ideas to strengthen our projects. So in case you have any questions for the keynote speakers, you can always leave them on the chat and we can read them after. So it would be really efficient and agile. So I remind you again, this session will be recorded in case one of your teammates couldn't make it. He or she can watch the video afterwards. So we're going to go right now to the first workshop that we're having today. We're very glad to have Simon Redfern here. So Simon, let us know when you are ready. The stage is yours, and he will inspire us with this API workshop. So Simon, if you're ready, the stage is yours, and you're going to start your workshop.
Hey folks, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Fantastic. So welcome everybody. Very glad to be with you. This is going to be a bit of a interactive session, I think. So please ask your questions as we go along. And yeah, I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of an introduction into OBP, but I will get down to the nitty-gritty pretty quickly. Yeah, so let me share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Here we come. All right, so can everyone see my screen okay? How will I know that? Yes, you can. Fantastic.
Perfect.
All right, so there are various sources of documentation for this hackathon, right? So obviously we have the AirNode documentation, we have the Credo documentation, but I'm going to focus on the Open Bank project, which will give links to some of the AirNode and Credo documentation, but obviously it's not going to replace that, right? So if you are a developer who thinks you want to access some of the RESTful APIs of Open Bank Project, either to create a new bank or to access account and transaction data, or maybe make payments and so on, either from a traditional web app like I don't know, a Node.js app, or a Django app, or a Spring Boot app also. Or you might want to call Credo APIs via OBP, or you might want to call OBP APIs via OBP. Then, yeah, please follow along a bit, right? And you can follow some of the steps that I'm doing and create a developer user, and so on and so forth. Can I ask just how much time I've got for this workshop, please?
1 hour.
I have 1 hour. Okay, fantastic. Okay, good.
We will let you know, Simon, when your time is becoming less, so you are aware of it. But don't worry.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right. So this is the starting point, right, for the Open Bank Project part of the hackathon, as it were. And I would encourage you now to sign up. Yeah. To get a developer user account. Yeah. This is going to be different. We have some dummy customer accounts that make it easy for you to get data, but I would encourage you to register yourself. So just put the minimum information, right? Basically, I think you will need to validate your email address. So put a proper email address. I think we ask for quite strong passwords, so please create a strong password and so on. And for those of you that are doing the Neobank challenge also, when you register yourself, you will automatically get a role where you can create a bank. So you can create your own kind of bank instance within Open Bank Project, and then you'll have lots of permissions to do various things on the Open Bank Project. So please go ahead and sign up. Now I've signed up already, so I'm just gonna log in, and I just want to show you some of the tools that we have on the Open Bank Project sandbox. Yeah. So we have something we call the API Explorer. And this is like a kind of, a good place to start to have a look at all the APIs. Now, Open Bank Project has a lot of APIs, right? And you won't need to use all of them or want to use all of them. But to make it a little bit easier, we have grouped them a little bit under these challenges, right? So in OBP, we can create these kind of collections of APIs. And by the way, you can also favorite the APIs that you like, right? Just by clicking a star here also. Oh, hold on, I'm not logged in on this app. Let me log in. Okay, so yeah, if I want to, oh, that's funny. Maybe Hongwei, you can have a look at this. Looks like we have an issue there with creating favorite APIs. Okay, so that's always the way with demos, right? We always find little issues sometimes. Okay, so we have grouped some APIs together. So for instance, under battle climate change, so you might in the Battle Climate Change challenge, you might want to create a financial product, for instance, which has some attributes related to climate change. Yeah, and you can create product attributes here using this API. And if you create your own bank, which I suggest you do if you want to create this kind of new kind of infrastructure, then you will automatically be able to grant yourself the roles that you need to use some of these APIs. So I'm also going to show you the API manager. Now, normally the API manager is used by a bank, right, or the API managers of the bank. But as a developer, you can also use it. So if you go to the API manager, you might need to log in. But if you go to My User, you can see what entitlements you have. So when you register on Open Bank Project, you will automatically get this. Role, and when you create a bank, you will automatically get other. You will automatically get this role, which allows you to create any role underneath a bank, right? So just this afternoon, I created a bank called Simon Says B, and I automatically got this role, right? So you will be able to come in here and add a role. If you're missing a role, you can come here using the My User link on the API manager and type a role in here. Yeah, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So I'll show you. So it should be pretty self-service. Yeah. So this is the API manager, and you can grant yourself roles there. Back to the API Explorer. Okay, so we have selected some APIs. Now, of course, you don't have to use any of these. You certainly don't have to use all of them, and you might want to use other APIs, right? But we've just created a few APIs which might be relevant. Yeah. So, for instance, if you want to store metadata around a certain transaction, right, or a certain counterparty. So in climate change, we talk about these scope 1, 2, 3 emissions. So scope 1 and 2 is like emissions which are directly created by the business in their operations. So you might want to add a you might want to store data with next to transactions or counterparties about this emission data potentially. And like I said, you might want to store data about products, financial products which are related. We can also see some Credo APIs here. Yeah, so this will be a slightly different topic a bit later, but it's possible to call the Credo APIs via Open Bank Project, and Open Bank Project takes care of some of the signing. Yeah, so of the endpoints. Now, you might want to store some extra data, right? So Open Bank Project has many APIs where you can store data behind it already, but you might want to create your own data, in which case you can use these dynamic entity endpoints. And so say you want to create some data about I don't know, a coffee plantation, say, right? Then you can use it. It's a little, if you've ever used anything like MongoDB, it's a little bit like that, but a bit simpler, well, quite a lot simpler. You could create an object about a coffee plantation and with certain fields, and you can also link this data to some other objects in the bank, so like a bank customer or so. That's what these references are for. Let's have a look at another challenge, build the next neobank. So here we can create a bank, and yeah, maybe I will create a bank right now just to demonstrate it a little bit. So I will put this in to a text file. Now, like most RESTful APIs, we are using JSON, right? So this is good standard JSON. So I'll call this Simon session, something like that. So this is going to be my bank ID. I want to give it a name, Simon session. Bank. And Simon session bank. Now, I'm not going to fill the logo in and stuff like that because, well, just because of time, but I will fill this ID in here. Now, for those of you, probably many of you have used JSON and so on before, but if not, I will show you this little tool, which is quite nice. If you're entering JSON, it's quite nice to use a tool like this to validate it. Okay, so I know this is valid JSON because it just says so down here. But if I don't know, if I say remove this comma or something, then I would get an error, and that's quite useful just to catch the errors. So we can add different attributes to this bank. So I don't know, let's call it a women's only office, something like that, right? So this is some data that we don't have in Open Bank project as a fixed set of data, but we want to have some data about the bank that we just added. So we can just validate it. Yeah, it's good. You're seeing all the adverts that I normally get shown. That's funny. Okay. Go back to my. Okay, I can copy and paste here, and post it. Okay. So I created a bank, and you should be able to do that exact same step. So I don't know if anyone's following along. Are people following along? Let's see on the chat. Who's following along? Anyone following along? Fantastic.
We all are.
Super duper.
Great.
That's great. Okay, so now we've created a bank. Now let's see what we got with that. So if we go to the API manager, now the API manager, by the way, and the API Explorer is just another app, right? It's an OAuth app. In Open Bank project, everything is driven by these RESTful APIs. So you could build an app which does all this stuff, right? Or more or less. Oh, can I update the bank? There's a question. Yeah, you should be able to. Now, I just go back to my user again, and you see I've already been given this create entitlement at one bank to this Simon session, right? So that's quite nice because it means I don't have to ask anyone else for it. Now let's see if I can update the bank then. You're asking me a question. I'm not sure if I know the answer to it, but okay, on API Explorer, you can kind of filter endpoints here in the side. So I just typed bank and update bank attribute. So what was the name of the attributes? So here's one thing I want to show you. If you see this drop-down list, this often shows the banks. Actually, that's interesting. Why it's not showing? I think we've hard-coded this list. Yeah, we've selected this, so it's not showing banks. Hongwei, if you're online, can you check the settings for that so that we can show the newly created banks as well? I think that would be cool. We hid away some test banks in there, but it would be good to show them. Generally, if you select the bank here, it will replace the bank ID here for you, right? And if you select an account ID, it will also replace the account ID here. Okay. So anyway, let me go back to my banks. We can use get banks to see all the banks that have been created on the sandbox. So get banks. This endpoint, I just call it like this. And okay, so here we see all the banks. So we have this kind of default bank, which is used for settlement accounts and so on. Then these are so-called sandbox accounts, which I actually created. So this bank here has accounts with US dollars in it. And this one has accounts with Bitcoin in it. And actually, you should be able to transfer money between these two as a kind of proof of concept. Obviously, it's not moving real Bitcoin or anything like that. It's very, very much just a dummy thing. But the transactions are stored and they balance out and everything like that. So you should be able to do that. And then here are a couple of banks that I created. So one before the demo and one during this demo. Yeah. And look, we can see there's a, so I didn't create that. That was created just now. So someone indeed created a bank. That's cool. Now, if I want to update, this ID, let's see, update bank. I'm just going to add a new bank attribute, I think, because I can't remember the name of the other one. So here is, which is where I would put the bank ID. So I put it here. And okay, yeah, let's say we're adding an attribute here like this. I'm just going to use the default thingy. Maybe I'll give it another number. Let's see if this works. So here it says I'm missing this role, right? Now all Open Bank project errors have a number like this. So this is 20,006, and it gives you the role that we are missing. So now I can go back to the API manager, and in my users thing, right? You won't be able to see the other users because you don't have that role, but you can always go to my user. And now I should be able to grant this role, this entitlement. And I want to do it to a certain at a certain bank. So I can basically do that now, and I just I add the role. It says it's done, and yeah, and now you can see that I have the role here. So now let's see. Now I also need this role. Can I create product attribute? 1 second. Okay, great. So so now I have added another attribute. That's an interesting point, but so Ludo is asking if you can update the attributes, and I think you can use this endpoint to get the attributes, right? So okay, I need to grant myself this role as well. Like this, chuck, and sorry, I'm looking for the wrong bank here. So I need to add Simon Says Session. Was that the name of my bank? No, it's telling me I don't have, that's the wrong invalid bank ID. So let me just go back here. Simon Session, not Simon Says Session. So get bank attributes, check. Okay, here's the attribute I added to the Simon Session. Actually, I'm not sure if that contains the attribute that I created with the bank, so might need to check that. You want to update the bank itself. This I'm not sure about. Maybe Hongwei, you could answer that, but I'm not sure. If you're unable to, I would just create a new bank. Yeah, this like letting developers create banks is a slightly new feature, but yeah, banks in themselves are built in pretty much at the heart of Open Bank project. So let's have a quick look through some of these other. Gosh, it's 45 minutes. No, it's 15 minutes. No, we've got some time. Okay. I was panicking there about the time. So empowering merchants. So there are plenty of endpoints to do with customers. So so adding customers. So you can add customers to. So bank customers or customers of the merchant and so on, you can add them with these APIs, and you can add like KYC information. Hongwei, I think he was asking if you can update the logo, right? Not create it, but to. Oh, you can update the bank. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, so we have APIs for adding KYC information. So for instance, passport information, and the transaction request APIs, actually, they're not listed here. But if you want to see all the Open Bank project APIs, you just you click on the OBP link, and you so in OBP, if you want to make payments, you do it with these transaction requests. Yeah. So here we have different types of payments, but the one to use in the sandbox is the sandbox TAN or the account. It's basically the same thing. So you basically need a from account ID and a to account ID, and you can send the money through. Now, if you're building back to the neobank example, if you're one of the things that you'll want to do with neobank is to give to create new accounts, and so there are endpoints for creating an account application. So somebody applies for an account of a certain product. So you can define your product. Maybe it's a empowering women's product, or a climate change product, or a various product that you can define yourself, and then you can use the endpoint, or your app can use the endpoint to create an account application. And you can also use this endpoint to change the status of a kind of pending account into a real account. And if you want to create, if you want to move money around within the bank, then you can create accounts, and you can also create historical transactions. So what does that mean, historical transactions? So normally in Open Bank project, you can only send money from an account that you have access to, that you are the account owner of. But if you want to build up a picture of money flow within the bank for the purposes of the hackathon, then you can use this create historical transactions. Yeah. So as always, you'll need to give yourself access to the you need to give yourself the role, but then you can basically add transactions between various accounts in the bank. Let's have a look at the Empowering Women account challenge. Again, some familiar endpoints here. So creating customers, for instance, getting the tax residence of the customer. This sometimes needs to be set. What about the credit rating, for instance, of the customer? Yeah, how can we improve the credit rating of people, and women in particular? This might be via adding documents, or even it's possible to create records of cash transactions, right? Using the historical transactions at one bank, you could create records of payments and money coming in, even if it's like informal payments. And this can help the woman increase her credit rating by providing this information. Yeah, and in Redesigning Remittances, we have the essential transaction request endpoints at the bottom. Yeah, so create a transaction request, results in a challenge. In the sandbox, it's very easy to answer the transaction request, and so the payment will go through. Now, I want to show you a little bit about the, Brian, we've got a question about smart contract. Yeah, I will get onto that in a bit, Brian. First, I want to go through the kind of basic authentication. So if we go to the introduction, just to go like a little bit up, as it were. So in OBP, there's lots of different types of endpoints, right? So in OBP, pretty much everything is an endpoint. So we can get customer data, we can make payments, you can create your own APIs. If you want to imagine an API for the purposes of your hack, then you can build it in OBP. As I mentioned, we can create dynamic entities. So if you want to store some data, like about a coffee plantation or a blockchain company or whatever, then you can do it. We can create our own bank and products and generate historical transactions. And we can call partner APIs. And yeah, as I mentioned, we can call OBP via the air node. Now, this is a list of the APIs. It's just the same list, the same collection of APIs. Now, okay, so far I've shown you accessing some of the APIs using the API Explorer, which is an OAuth app. But what happens if you want to, obviously you're going to want to call it from your own app. So there are two sections here. Web2 getting started, and someone's unmuted. Can someone mute? Thanks. So Web 2 is like traditional applications, and Web 3 is the blockchain, obviously. So I'm going to go through the Web 2 briefly. So you'll need your consumer key, right? So for that, kind of go back to your home. You've already registered yourself as a user, right? As a developer, and now you're going to get a consumer key. So this is where we do it now. Confidential or public. So confidential means that it's a web app, basically. So the keys are on a server. They're not given to a mobile phone or something like that. So if it's a web app, it is confidential. Just put the name, redirect URL. So let me do it here. I don't need a redirect URL, but because I'm not going to do the whole OAuth flow now, but I will put this in here. It's my company. Okay, so now what you do is you copy and paste this lot. Just shove it in a text file for use later on. Now, when you copy it, this is slightly annoying. It tends to. Okay, so there's my consumer key. There's my consumer secret. We'll come back to this in a little bit. So that's good. That's done. Now, to get some of the dummy customer data, if you scroll down a bit here, you will find some usernames which have access to accounts and transactions. So I'm going to bring up my Rsk client now. It's called Paul, but anyone will do. Let's see. So I have a REST client here. Make sure it's got the sandbox URL, and we're going to use something called direct login here. And this is a very simple way to authenticate to the sandbox, to the Open Bank Project sandbox. It's much simpler than doing an OAuth 1 or OAuth 2 flow, which obviously we do support, but whilst you're getting going, unless you're very familiar with OAuth, it's probably best to start with this. We also support authentication to Google, by the way, and Yahoo and Microsoft Azure via OpenID Connect. Actually, Hongwei Daniel, maybe you could check if that is enabled, because I didn't see any of those buttons around. So it would be good to enable that. Okay, so yeah, actually, I will also show you the glossary a little bit. So if you go to the API Explorer and go more here and come down to the glossary, there is down the left-hand side a bunch of index items, and we can look for one called direct login. Here it is. So if you need instructions for direct login, you can have a look here. You'll see that all the host information is correct. What you need to do is here. This is actually a slightly old style, but it will work. And the basic process is that you exchange credentials, username, and password, and you get back a token, and then you use that token. So I'm gonna do that now. So in the headers, actually, yeah, I don't want to use that. Now you've all seen my password. Not good. But I will change it soon. So for direct login, yeah, you can put direct login in the header name. There's also another method where you can put it, you can just put authorization, but yeah, put direct login in the header name. And then you need your username, password, and consumer key. Okay, so consumer key, I just registered a minute ago, and I'm going to put that here. Check like that. Now let's just try it without this. So it should give us an error also. Yeah, it says we don't have the parameters correct yet. So now I want the username and password, and I'm going to take it from these dummy customer users, right? So I can get some data back. So I just scroll down. Yeah, which one shall I use? I'll use Tiago. Let's see. So copy that. Come here. Oh no, that's not good. I didn't copy that very well. I'll just take these and spend a lot of time in text editors. Let's see. Copy. Everyone still having fun? I hope I'm not being too boring. Okay. Password. And back to POR or any REST client. So you can use Postman, etc., etc. Save that. Execute. Okay, now we've got our token. And I'm just gonna, this will last for quite some time. Couple of, where is the direct login doc? Hongwei, can you share the link to the glossary item with the direct login, please? I just store this token here. Now I can call an API. So how do we call an API from here? So we go back to the API Explorer and say I want to get, I just want to get the accounts that I hold. Yeah. Get accounts held. So actually, I'll copy this. So I'm making a new request, duplicate. And then I'm going to change the URL. Now, did I copy the whole thing? It's just going to be too much. Oh no, that's about right. All OBP endpoints start with a version, by the way. So this is a GET request. And in the headers, I need to send a direct login token. I don't want to send this token because that was from yesterday, and that relates to a different user. I want to send this token here, which relates to my sandbox user. And so I just copy and paste this here. Save it. Now, it's probably gonna, I don't have the bank ID there yet. So let's just see what happens when I call that. Yeah, it says bank not found. Please specify a valid bank. So let's go back to our banks. Emilian Neobank. That's cool. Hongwei, can you look at that? I think it seems to be only showing 2 banks there or something, which is funny. I think we have a little issue there. So I can't remember if it's this one or let me get. Okay, cool. We got another bank or 2 here already. Okay, so that's 1. So it's very useful to get a text file like this because you have to remember all these different IDs and blah, blah, blah. And that's the other one. Okay. So let's see where we are. Oh, that was updating some data earlier. So let's see if I have any accounts at this bank. Let's see. No, I don't. So it must be the other bank, I guess. Because it says returns an empty list. Okay, good. So here is our account data. And from this, we can get the account IDs. And from this, we can get transactions and so on and so forth. So pretty important construct in OBP is these account IDs. Okay, thanks, Henry. So that's direct login, right? So you just you make a call using the user that you want to represent. So if I want to do something admin-like, I would log in as me. If I want to do something, you know, like for instance, related to my consumer key or get my consumer keys or something like that, actually, we don't allow that. But if I wanted to do something related to the developer or an admin user, I was logged in as me. If I want to get dummy data, I will log in as one of these users, right? So please recognize that difference. Yeah, and remember to create your own bank if you want to do lots of stuff. If you want to just get data that's already there, then you can. You don't need to create your own bank. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the Air node, and I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it fully, but I will show you some of the principles and some of the APIs that you'll need to use to make the most of it. So here's a diagram. I hate it when I do that. There, no, here. Ding. Okay. Lucid chart. So the basic principle is that the smart contract is sending a request to OBP via the Air node. So this is the API 3 Air node with whom we're in a long-term partnership, and happy to have these guys around. Good bunch of people. So basically what happens is that the smart contract or the Air node is like listening basically to the blockchain, right? It's looking at events or the data on the blockchain, and at some point it will call the API. Right now it's calling it via a little proxy we've written, but basically the Air node will send to OBP the smart contract address, and the OBP will get or create a user. So what does that mean? So it will see this deauth request coming in, some, you know, like some long text random string. So so here's the smart contract address, something like that, which has been authenticated by the Air node, or rather, the Air node is only sending it once it's like six blocks old or so, so OBP can be pretty confident that the smart contract address that is sent is valid and solid and so on. And when OBP sees this, it does also, there is something in OBP called the provider, and I think we have this. It's going to be like deauth Ethereum blah 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 testnet. Not sure of the punctuation, but basically OBP is creating a user with this user ID and this provider. So OBP can support multiple like authentication providers. So obviously we have our own built-in one, but also Google and the bank's one and blah, blah, blah. So this is like, so here, the smart contract, the Ethereum and or RSK blockchains become like an authentication provider in a sense. In other words, we pin a user between here and here. So whenever this smart contract calls us, we can act accordingly. So what does that mean? So in OBP, when you register a user, you're basically, all we know about you is that you've got your username and probably we validated your email address, right? So not much. But then we can decorate that user by giving it permissions, either something we call views, which give access to accounts and transactions, and something called roles, which we showed earlier, right? So I needed to grant myself roles to call certain endpoints on the OBP API, and yeah, so we've got views, account access to customer data, and then access to kind of bank or system level functions on Open Bank project. So say you want to create an FX rate or something like that, you'll need a role for that, right? So in theory, you can, and hopefully in practice too, right? You can, we create the user, and then we need to give this user permissions, right? So how do we do that? So this is done by a human, either a customer of the bank that wants to give some of their access to their data to a smart contract, or a bank admin person who wants to give the permissions, say for the smart contract to create an FX rate, or to create an account, or to get some data. Yeah. So in this kind of Oracle functionality that the Air node is designed to be.
Simon,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. Just to let you know that you have 10 minutes left to finish up, and if you want to pass to questions or just finish up, it's up to you. Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think once I'm done here, well, I will briefly touch on the Credo stuff, but yeah, thanks for your information. All right, so there are a couple of endpoints here. So I'll go back to the API Explorer. So here we have this AirNode/DAuth. Now, you can call any Open Bank project API with the Air node, right? So these are not just the only two ones that you can call, but these are used to give permissions to the smart contract in a sense. So, and these are pretty new endpoints, right? So please bear with us if you find any bugs. You know, like hackathons are for us to hack as well, and so there are some pretty new features in here. But basically, what we do is, so your app, your mobile app or your web app, will authenticate using one of these dummy users, or any user which has accounts on OBP and transactions probably. You're going to put the account ID here, and then you're going to post to this URL. This is the bank ID here, and this is where you put the smart contract value. I think we need to update this documentation, Hongwei, because this should be, say, Ethereum or something like that. Yeah. But basically, this is your smart contract ID. This is a string which tells us which network it should be coming from. So we can imagine the air node calls OBP. Yes, there is a Swagger or Postman collection. Hongwei, can you put a link to that? Maybe we should add it to the introduction page. I can maybe show you that in a minute. We do have it on the bottom of the API Explorer, I think. Okay, so we put in the smart contract and a string here which represents the network. And then which roles we want to give this person. Well, sorry, not this person, this smart contract, yeah? And depending on the roles that the user has that's executing this, we will, more or less of this will be successful, right? So obviously, if you don't have the role can create branch and you try and grant it to a smart contract, you won't be able to do that. But if you do, you will be able to. I think I'm not quite sure of the exact logic we used in the end, but obviously we have to protect people giving roles that they don't have. Yeah. So this is a way to give access to kind of bank or system level functions. And then this is a way to give access to accounts, right? So once you know your account, then you can grant roles. Hongwei, this documentation needs updating. Yeah, I think they should have the view ID here rather than the role ID. So we've got a couple of tweaks to documentation here. Now I just mentioned what we mean by view ID. So a view in OBP is a way to give different access to accounts. So maybe you want to just give people access to the date of each transaction. So you can create a view for that. But typically you're using a view called owner, and this has all the rights that you can grant. By the way, Open Bank Project also supports financial transparency, so you can create public views as well. So can you initiate a token transfer through? Not at the moment. Maybe that's something that we can work on during the hackathon, but not at the moment. But that's a very interesting question. If you have some ideas about how to do that, that would be cool. I would be interested to try and make that work. Ludo? Yeah. Okay, so someone asked about Swagger, right? So I think here we have the Swagger, yeah. And it's showing you the Swagger for a certain filter, right? So here we are just showing the two endpoints that are filtered with this tag here. So if we go back and let's have a look at empowering women and go down to the bottom, then obviously a lot more data, but then if we look at this Swagger, so this is going to be, we had an error there. Why is that? Maybe it's too large or so. Yeah, we need to check that. So we'll be able to provide you with a Swagger if need be. Any per next Algorand. Happy to talk about it. Algorand, yep. Yeah, okay, and briefly on Credo. We have imported the Swagger for Credo here, and so yes, Jose, sorry about the. Yeah, it's definitely open source. I think there's links to our GitHub at the bottom. Where are we? At the bottom. Gosh, that's a lot. That's all the Credo endpoints. So here's our GitHub. Main projects are the API here. And there's a README, which you would probably want to read. But it's a Scala application, by the way, OBP API. The API Explorer is here. This is also a Scala application. And we can help you, we can support you if you want to set that up. And the API Manager is a Django application. We also have a bunch of SDKs, by the way. So there's some Figma. I don't know if you've used that. Kind of basic, but it's kind of nice. There are all sorts of little SDKs in Python and so on and so forth. The SDKs actually are listed, or at least some of them are listed here, right? So React, iOS, Flutter, Node.js, etc., etc. A little bit of Android, etc. Spring Boot. This app is actually quite fully featured. This does a whole open banking flows, like Mexico/UK open banking flows, and so on. Anyway, I know my time is running out. I just want to go back to the Credo stuff. So the Credo APIs are listed in the API Explorer, and what you need to do to use them is to add your public key to something called the you need to add your private key, right? Which is a little bit dodgy in a sense, right? But this is just for a hackathon context, right? So we did this just to make it easier to call the Credo APIs. So if you add your private key to the user auth context, so the user auth context is just some data associated to the user, right? So you will, to call the Credo APIs, you need to add your Credo private key to the user auth context. And then when you are authenticated as the user, and it might be using direct login or so you can use a simple authentication mechanism, and you call one of the Credo APIs, OBP will sign the request using your private key and send the request to Credo. Yeah, you probably will need to request access to some of these. So if you need access to a role that you can't grant yourself, then you basically press this button and then ping us on the Discord. Is it somehow compliant to ISO 20022? Yeah, sure. So we actually have a mode where we can use some of the short form ISO 20022 names and so on. And where in all of the Open Bank project APIs, whenever we have needed to decide about a name of a field, then we have chosen the ISO names. We tend not to use these like super short names like Kusi by default, but yeah, and we have the open banking standards here. So all the standards that we support are here. So UK open banking and Berlin Group, Mexico, etc. Right? But I would suggest for purpose of the hackathon, you should use the OBP APIs because some of the other standards need a lot more authentication, preparation, etc. Let me just explain that user auth context a little bit again. So when you authenticate, so you could call an API from the air node, and as long as that user is associated with has the its user auth context, you could even call the Credo APIs via the air node. Camped. Good question. So we have a we have a SEPA adapter which might support that, Ludo. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure. But it's on our GitHub. Does anyone have any questions? My voice is running out.
Thank you, Simon. I think, is there any questions on the audience? We can write them through the chat, or you can open your mic in case you want to ask directly to Simon. So is there any question now? I think we don't have one. So Simon, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really inspiring. There's one question on the chat from Marcos. So he asked, so for any OBP endpoint that we need to use, we need to send separate requests for roles?
It depends, Marcos. If you create your own bank, then you can grant yourself all the roles that you need. If you want to, if you want to, and if you use the dummy users, you can get the data that those users have access to. If you want to do something on the OBP system, like do something else, or you want to do something on an existing bank, then you need to ask us. Yeah. So if in doubt, if you want to do fancy your own stuff, then create your own bank, and you can do what you want there.
Perfect.
This
Thank
is
you,
a SEPA
Simon.
adapter, by the way. Okay. Yeah.
Now, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm going to go and do some salsa dancing later. That's what.
That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you, Simon, for sharing this information that definitely will enhance the solutions that all of the people are making here. So thank you for inspiring us with us. So now we have a quick break. So we
and
can
just
go...
one sec. Sorry, just one
Yes?
second. Let me just. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, please ask questions. Right. So, like OBP has a lot of possibilities. Obviously, if you add the Credo and you add the air node with that, there are many possibilities, right? So please don't hesitate to, explain what you're trying to do, and then we can help. Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
Simon.
it.
Thank you for clarifying this. Thank you for your intervention and your great inspired topics for all of us. As we mentioned on the chat, you can follow the conversation on Discord on the general chat. So in case you have any other question or you want to explain further the solution that you are designing, and you can have some recommendations from Simon or other people in the team, please don't hesitate to continue the conversation over there in the general chat. So now we're going to have a quick break to get a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a glass of water to continue enjoying this. So while we are on the break, it's going to be a 10-minute break. We want to ask you what has caught your attention from this first workshop, what inspired you. So please share on the chat while we are on this break so we can continue the conversation. Vamos a ir a un pequeño break de 10 minutos, mientras pueden ir por un vaso con agua, una taza de café, de té, para seguir inspirándose con los siguientes workshops. Y en el chat les pedimos que nos compartan qué les inspiró de esta charla que nos dio Simon, y podremos continuar con el siguiente workshop en 10 minutos. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Please come back on time so we can start with the next workshop. So we're gonna let you know how much time we have. So while you are on the break, you can reflect on all the content that Simon gave to us and share on the chat what has inspired you the most. So we'll see you in 10 minutes, and please be on time so we can start with the next speaker. In case you have any question, we will be reading you on the chat. Perfect. So now we're back to continue getting inspired by all the keynote speakers that we have today for the next workshops. So now we're going to have the next workshop regarding a walkthrough of API 3 and the specific components. And here we will have two great keynote speakers that are going to inspire us with this topic. So make sure you are back in the session. Make sure you have your glass of water, cup of tea, cup of coffee, so you can enjoy and get inspired, and of course, get new content for your solutions. So I'm gonna give the welcome to Jacob Greeny, API 3 workshop. So Jacob, the stage is yours and we can hear you now.
Hello, everyone. The mic all good?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thanks. So this is going to be, Simon was able to get into what Airnode does a little bit, and definitely in relation to OBP. And this is going to go through more technical stuff about Airnode and more generalized things about the capabilities of it and going into some examples. So to get started, I'll just talk more generally about what API 3 is, what we do, so that we know everyone understands what's going on. So basically, we're an Oracle service and we bring off-chain data on-chain. And how we differentiate ourselves is we allow providers to run it first party. So we think that solves a big problem because currently a lot of the Oracle services rely on third-party middlemen. So the people that run the API aren't the actual people sending the data on-chain and maintaining the software. So what we allow is people to, API providers, to run these oracles as first party. And basically how that's possible is serverless technology and just the Airnode framework, how easily you're able to integrate just any standard HTTP REST API. So we can get into a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, now we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So starting with this repo, the Rsk Hackathon Starter, the link to this is provided in dev post. So I just want to note something off the jump. We're using pre-alpha Airnode for all of the hackathons, not any newly released stuff. I'm sorry, that might get a bit confusing because we're currently releasing new versions and updating some of the docs. So I just wanted to make sure no one got confused on that and it was completely clear. So what this will be and what this repo does is deploys an Airnode and covers making requests to both that Airnode and any existing Airnodes that you would want to talk to. So we can walk through a couple examples there, and I have a video to bring up as well that you can also listen to in your own time. So this is just walking through all the steps in the repo and what they do. First, we have everything provided in NPM packages. So it's about installing those and the dependencies. And first, we'll go through just calling an example CoinGecko Airnode, and then we'll move into OBP and how to customize and talk to your own. So after you've installed the dependencies, you're generating a wallet. And what that'll do is just spit out a completely new mnemonic. So what you want to do at this point is put that into something like MetaMask. And MetaMask just allows you to derive the master wallet address from this mnemonic, because the master wallet you're going to need to fund. So to access any funds that you might need, we have a faucet linked in the materials provided by Rsk, and that'll deposit 0.05 RBTC per day. So if you want to build this up, then make sure to make daily requests for the first week or so. But 0.05 RBTC should last quite a long time. So then you want to go into your .environment file and make sure, obviously, you're setting the RPC node URL to Rsk node. And something to mention here is that this node requires the method eth_getLogs being exposed. So you won't just be able to use any standard Rsk node. You'll need to make sure that that method's exposed, and we provide a public one with that method. So just make sure you're either using the one we provided or one that you know has that method exposed. But that's only needed if you're actually going to be deploying your own air node to run. You don't have to worry about that if you're just calling already existing provider air nodes. So this customizes the config and inserts the contents from that environment file into the config.json file. So what the config.json file basically contains is two things. First, a lot of information that the air node will need to run, like the chain ID, the addresses of the two air node contracts on that chain, which are airnode.sol and convenience.sol. So these two contracts have to be deployed on every single chain that Airnode is on, and Airnode's EVM compliant. So basically any EVM chain we're able to deploy on. And once we deploy these two contracts, airnode.sol and convenience.sol, then any API provider can go and redeploy their Airnode to also serve that chain. And one cool feature is that they're actually able to just use a single Airnode instance running to serve multiple chains, as many chains as they want. So the other thing that config file does is it contains all the configurations for the actual API so that Airnode knows how to actually talk to the API that's been integrated. So the integration process creates this configuration file, and we have tools that allow us to just integrate any HTTP REST API from things like Swagger files. So that's really important because it's something we can scale very easily. And if you have an API that you just want to use, feel free to reach out and we can try and integrate that for you, help you out. And it's a pretty quick process. So don't worry if your API isn't already as a provider or you want to deploy your own API. That's very easy to do. So once you cd into config, you can go ahead and actually run the Docker at this point. Everything's done, and you just want to make sure that you have Docker installed and that you've started Docker. Actually, on my EC2, I had to use the sudo command to do that. You probably will have to do that as well. So this Docker command actually does everything that is needed for Airnode to get set up, and it's going to spit out a mnemonic and also an address that you need to fund. So this address is called the provider admin, and basically it's in charge of doing all the authorizations that the Airnode will need. So adding new users to be able to call the API, and in charge of taking it down or redeploying it. So it'll spit out that address, and you want to make sure to fund that address, because then that lets Airnode go and actually create the provider record on chain, which is the actual start of that API being actively available. So then this step that we did after that, update the authorizers. You see this ID, the ID that is the provider ID. So once you create the provider on chain, everyone will see this provider ID and then be able to use that to then call your Airnode specifically. And then each endpoint within your Airnode will have its own endpoint ID. So basically, those are the two things that you'll need to provide to talk to an already existing Airnode, which we'll get into later. You just need the provider ID of that Airnode and the endpoint ID, and then you're pretty much ready to go talking to it. So what this update authorizers command does is it actually sets the authorizers to address 0, which in blockchain terms is just an address with all zeros in it. And it's basically the address of the native token on each and every chain. And what it does in this case is it sets the Airnode to just be publicly accessible by anyone. But if you wanted to only authorize certain people, you would then input those certain addresses to the update command. So now you're pretty much all ready to go. And we've made sure to update all the endpoints for all of our deployed providers to be publicly accessible. So everyone should just be able to jump right in and call any endpoint from any provider that they'd like. So here we are making a request to an Airnode, step number 2. So this is where you would actually start if you just want to talk to one of our already deployed provider airnodes, you can skip right to step number 2. And one thing to note is that you'll still need a config.json file, but in this instance, the config is only needed to know the chain specific information, like the addresses of the airnode contracts and the RPC URL. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't look at any of the API configuration because that only comes into play when you're deploying an airnode. So you don't really have to worry about changing anything in the config.json if you're just skipping to this make a request step, because it will show CoinGecko stuff in there, but it doesn't matter. So the first thing to do is create your requester record, which puts on chain that you're going to use this address to start requesting API calls from airnodes. So something to get into at this point is that airnodes work with request response protocol. So basically the same user or developer experience that you would have from calling one of these APIs over traditional Web 2, you're going to have calling it over Web 3 as well. So you make a request to an API and that API returns the response. The only difference is the request is made on chain and the response is now put back on chain. So if you want to build using oracles just kind of traditionally, if you're used to like building DeFi with another type of existing Oracle service, then we actually have provided a live Bitcoin data feed that you can work with. And if you'd like something for any other coins, just let me know and we'll be happy to put that up there. And I'll get into that after this. So if you just want to use oracles kind of, as you already know, in the basic way is not request response, we cater that too, and just stick around. So once you create a requester, you get an index, and Airnode actually uses that index to derive a designated wallet, which we'll get into in the future. So that's definitely important. And the steps getting done here are endorsing your client and deploying your client. So what the client is here is example client.sol, which you can find in this Rsk Hackathon repo in the contracts. So example client.sol is something that everyone who wants to request an Airnode has to deploy. And that's your own interface. You can customize how you want, and that's where the data gets returned to you. So for example, with the feed we've deployed, the live feed, that's also in the contracts file there, and it's called example feed.sol. So all that's done there is just configuring that interface a little differently for how the data is returned. So the example client.sol is just a basic one that you can use that will work for all API calls that you can just get started and don't have to worry about. And once that's deployed, you have to endorse it and let the airnode.sol client or the airnode.sol contract on that chain know about your new example client contract and that it is going to be the one to send the fulfilled API calls to. So here in this step, you derive the designated wallet. So that's what I was getting into with the requester index. When you derive your designated wallet, or when you create a requester, each requester of Airnode needs to have a special wallet designated to them, because one of the things that we allow API providers to do and why we're able to get so many API providers deployed is because they never have to touch crypto to deploy. They don't really have to worry about anything like topping up wallets or anything like that, which can be a pretty big worry and something that probably keeps a lot of people from putting their data on chain. So for us to allow that, every requester needs to have their own designated wallet. And basically that's there. So Airnode, when it gets a call from you, it can use your designated wallet to then respond to that call, which is a transaction on chain, the response obviously. So Airnode needs a wallet to do that, and it'll need to pay gas. So this just makes sure that anyone requesting data pays the gas for that request to be sent back from Airnode. So you just have to make sure you top up this wallet. So for instance here, what it'll do next is send 0.01 RBTC to that wallet. So that should, allow you to fulfill tons and tons of calls. And it's designed to pretty much be something that you just top up every now and then if you know that you're going to be making lots of calls to this API. So, sorry, I am not checking the questions channel. If anyone is asking any questions or has any, feel free to pop them in, and maybe Ryan or Rob just jump off mute and let me know that we have questions, because I might not see them. So once you've derived the designated wallet, we have a command already in there that'll fund it. So if you don't want to send 0.01 RBTC, you can either just use something like MetaMask or your own RSK wallet to send however much you want, or you can actually go into the scripts of this and the derived designated wallet script, and it's pretty easy to just change the amount sent. It's just a string. I can actually point it out in the code right now. Or no, fund designated wallet script, sorry. So you would just need to change this amount on line 7 to whichever amount you would like to send. Because 0.01 RBTC should actually last you quite a long time, so you might not want to send all that just off the jump. So here we're actually finally at the making a request step. So I'll kind of outline what's going on within the AirNode code when this request is made. So here we can get into what, if you were deploying your own AirNode, what that would then be doing at this point. So the AirNode that was deployed in that Docker image earlier is just a JavaScript package that is set to run in Lambda serverless and wake up every minute and check that certain or multiple chains for any requests that have been made on that chain. And how it checks for requests relates to why the AirNode needs to be able to use the eth_getLogs method from earlier, is it has to check events on chain, past events. So if you're kind of new to blockchain, events are just something that any contract on the chain can send out and publish saying that something has happened. So for instance, on like Uniswap, they have an event for, say, someone swapped this for this. So every time someone swaps, it's posted and marked to the chain. And, you know, this is one of the really cool features about blockchain, how it records the history of everything. So AirNode.sol, one event that it emits is that a request has been made. And it gives the parameters for that request so that AirNode is able to read them and know what API call to make, and then know what to respond back to that AirNode. So once you've made the request, you're just waiting for that to get confirmed on chain, and then you'll get a request ID back out. So what the example client.sol does is it is a dictionary or a mapping in Solidity, mapping request bytes 32 request IDs to int256 return data. So that contract will have a big dictionary or mapping of all the request IDs to then all the return data. And what something like the example feed.sol does is just exposes a view function where you can read the state, and it just stores the price state to be the last request that was recently fulfilled. So with something like that, you can allow, you have just kind of like a post-it board that where you have all these prices and anyone can say, oh, I need the price and request it. And then that's updated for everyone, that everyone can go look at. So we think that feature is pretty cool, how anyone can just make requests for prices on chain and we can all use that data. So once the contract for making a request is confirmed and a request has been emitted, then AirNode will wake up once a minute. It'll see, okay, someone's made this request. It'll go then make the API call off chain to the Web2 API, and whatever data it gets, it will then return that on chain. And it knows what to return based on things like the config file and the parameters you've given in the request. So you can see here, it returns the Ethereum price on chain. Yeah, so I guess there aren't any questions at this point, and I mean, I'll just take a couple seconds if anyone wants to put them in. But the next thing that we can look at are more specific request scripts and that type of thing, and about how to talk to the feed. So for anyone that wants to use the feed, you might have had some experience with Solidity. So once you run one of the earlier commands, I think it's the second one on this page, npm run build, it'll compile all these contracts and paste out ABIs for you to use to talk to this. So you just need to make sure that you've run that command and then go get the ABI, for example, feed.sol. And the function that you're really worrying about is this getPrice function here. So here's the mapping of fulfilled data that I was talking about earlier. And this is the new price state that you're reading from. So all it does when airnode.sol calls this fulfill function is it first sets that in the mapping and then sets the new latest price to be that data. And it checks if the status code is 0 on the request, which means that there were no error codes. So for people that are going to be creating their own custom requests and figuring out how to use providers we've deployed, you might run into getting status codes that aren't 0. And this is what helps you understand, what you might have done wrong or what you need to change about your parameters to make the request. So if you do make a request and you see some weird data returned on chain, what you can do is find the event, and the event will give you the status code for request fulfilled. So there's an event emitted by airnode.sol for a request being created and then a request being fulfilled. So if you get some weird data, check the request fulfilled event, and the status code will be right there, and then you can go see what that status code means and work with it. So yeah, to call the feed, you just want to really worry about that getPrice function if you're just looking for a traditional Oracle experience, and that'll return you the latest Bitcoin price on chain. And we have the address of it where it's deployed right here at the top. So what we can get into now is if you want to talk to already deployed air nodes from our providers. So an example that we put together was for OBP, but I'll just get into the CoinGecko one quickly, just so we show you 2 examples to make it more clear. So this is the make request script, which is the last script you run to make the request, obviously. And these are all the functions that need to be input to make request. So the last one, you're encoding with the AirNode ABI, the actual parameters for the API call. So this line 25 is the line that you'll actually be modifying if you want, when you're making your own requests. And you're just going to be pretty much adding parameters and customizing them. So the other thing to note here is that you'll need a provider ID and the endpoint ID, which I mentioned earlier, of the air node you want to talk to. So just make sure you do that first. You change the provider ID, the endpoint ID, and then modify your parameters, and you're good to go making new requests to your air node. The OBP example request calls this endpoint right here. So banks. And you can see path is basically what AirNode knows to return. So we can see we've set the path to banks.0.id. So if you go look at what's returned from this API call, it means you wanted to look at the banks dictionary that's returned, and index 0 of that, which is just the first item in that, and the ID column. So what's returned here from this API call, and actually the data on chain that you can read, is this OBP1 if you return banks.0.id. And you can obviously customize that and return anything you want, but that's just a basic example of how to do that. So the type that you see here, defined as bytes 32, is how you want the data returned. So for example, here, OBP1 is a string, so we want it to be returned as a string on chain or a bytes 32. And you can see here, I've just hard coded in the provider ID and endpoint ID for the OBP script so that you can just run this out of the box and not have to worry about making any code modifications if you just want to start playing around talking to OBP. And if you want to do this yourself, or when you want to do this yourself and talk to all the APIs that we may have. You just go to this link here, and you can see, like, for further reference, the line that you would have to modify again, line 25, for the new parameters that you want, and adding in the provider ID and endpoint ID, which is pulled from this source parameters.js file right here. So the default ones in here are for the CoinGecko API. We have the OBP ones hard-coded into its request, and just change these when you want to modify and do your own. And how to find those, you go right here, and you can see all the APIs that are deployed and partnered with API 3 and that you can talk to. So for instance, if you here click on Finage, clicking this link will show you the Web2 docs. So Finage's actual API docs that they have. And then clicking AirNode will show you the actual AirNode documentation. So the things you'll need here that I keep mentioning, the provider ID, and then a list of endpoints. So if you want to get stop prices, you can click on that and you go see here, that's the specific endpoint ID. So that'll be all the information you need to really get started making new requests to new APIs. Yes, and the AirNode contract will be the same on all chains. And what we need to do here to clear things up, this is one of the things I was mentioning earlier. It's not actually the AirNode RRP contract. You may get confused, and the reason that's in here is because that's the new name of the new updated contracts in the newly released AirNode versions. But using the pre-alpha AirNode versions that we're using here for the hackathon, it would actually be AirNode.sol. So we're going to have to make a note to change that when we get to it. And this is the address of AirNode.sol on the RSK testnet, where you're all set up with all these providers. So the code is verified on RSK if you want to look at it. And if you want to look at the GitHub, again, make sure you look at the pre-alpha branch of the AirNode monorepo, which is just under the API 3 GitHub. You'll see it.
Jacob, just for you to know, you have 5 more minutes for your talk.
Right, great. That's perfect timing. I'm pretty much all done here. So at this point, I'll just open it up to any questions that anyone might have specifically. And always, if you come up with questions later, then just reach out on the Discord. I'm jacob.defi on there, and we'll have a bunch of people ready to help you.
Thank you, Jacob, for this information. And we invite all the participants, if you have any questions, to share it on the chat or unmute yourselves and directly ask to Jacob. And to continue the conversation on the general chat, or as Jacob mentioned, with his username. Jacob, if you could post your username on the chat so people can share with you any questions that they may have. And actually, we have a question from Ludo, and he asked, it looks like you are quite hardcore to Ethereum. Any chance to port it to Algorand?
Yeah, we really try not to be hardcore Ethereum. We're hardcore EVM. So I'm not actually too familiar with Algorand, but any chain that's EVM, just reach out to us and we're very happy to port there.
Thank you, Jacob, for sharing this. Thank you, Ludo, for asking this. If you have any other question, we invite you to share it on the chat or through the Discord channel general chat, or directly to Jacob, who just shared his username. So thank you, Jacob, for this inspiring talk. So now we're going to give the welcome.
Actually, David, do you mind to add? It's not a question, but I did just add in the chat the link that Jacob was using that shows all of the, it's a search for all of the APIs that are pre-integrated and available for the hackathon. So if you click that link, the api3.org search equals Bankathon, you can scroll through and look at the different APIs that are available. If there are additional APIs that are not available that you'd like to use in the hackathon, you can potentially integrate those yourself, as Jacob just showed, by just connecting AirNode to a new API. or if it's something that you're not comfortable doing yourself, let us know, and we we may be able to do that for you rather quickly and get it up and running for you for the hackathon.
Yeah, good point. Please do reach out if there are any new APIs that you would like to integrate yourself, because we have tools to make that a lot easier for you. So there's no need to feel that you have to go at it alone if you want to integrate your own API.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jacob, for this acceleration. We share again the link that you just posted, Ryan. So we invite you all to consult that link and also to share some questions even here or through the Discord channel. So thank you all. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Ryan. And now we're going to give the stage to Messi Rendon from Tropicus, who's going to inspire us as well with some keynote talk. So Messi, you have the stage now.
Hello, everyone. Well, let me share my screen. So can you confirm if you can see my screen now?
We can now see your screen.
Okay, that's great. So my name is Messi Rendon. I'm the CTO of Tropicus Finance. Tropicus is basically a lending and borrowing protocol based on Compound and brought into the Rsk ecosystem. So just to be quite simplistic in this explanation, anyone that already knows Compound will quite familiar to what Tropicus actually is. The thing with Tropicus is that we modify the base code to make it more appealing for developing countries. So we came up with this idea of having a special market that can yield 4% APY as minimum always on BTC savings, right? And I don't want to get too much on that, but if you're just curious, you will have access to our white paper and understand what makes us quite different to Compound, especially what we call our hurricane interest rate model that makes this possible, right? And for effects of this hackathon, I just want to show our very own protocol repository. Everything that a developer needs should be found here on the main branch. And if you have any doubt on what specific version this hackathon should be addressed using Tropicus, it's the version 0.2.4. right? This is the expected version to be used, right? Right now it happens to be the very same main branch. So just by cloning this, developer would have everything that it's need to interact with Tropicus, right? So you will have access to all the smart contracts here. So there is a way to get the APIs for your development if you are happy to do that on JavaScript directly. But for those that are using Solidity and want to interact to the smart contracts directly, they could totally do it through the interfaces that are well exposed here. So for example, if someone wants to use mint function for either of all the markets that we have exposed, the only thing that you should have to do is to consume the mint function, right? So this will expose everything, and it's quite easier for a developer to come up with a solution using the interfaces, right? On the other hand, we have here hack and the file that I'm going to share through the chat right now, where we have some instructions on different project that we are still working on for the sake of this hackathon. So it's a special package that we created on NPM. So anyone that needs to have a more direct way to interact with the smart contracts that we have deployed on the mainnet, you can actually check these instructions here on the HackMD file, where you have a simple example on how to use this npm package that is actually using the ABIs that are the result of compiling those smart contracts. And as you can see here, you will see the output of calling all the markets that the controller is supporting right now. For the addresses, you will see all the addresses here published and also indicating what the name of the smart contract is and what is the smart contract it is based on, as well as the address. It is based on the testnet on Rsk, so this is very important. And if someone is just wondering how to do this, I will use my console here to make some examples on how to approach this. So feel free to ask me anything while I'm speaking. I want this to be more like a talk, so I can just show you how to use the Tropicus smart contracts and so on, right? Since it's based on the compound core smart contracts, you will need to use node 12. This is something that is mandatory to make the smart contracts work locally if you want to speed up your development. Other than that, you can do it directly against the smart contracts in testnet, in the testnet. So I will show a little example here on how to interact and how you can get things working on. I have the code already on my computer. The only thing that you will need is to have Ganache as virtual blockchain here, and that's it. The next thing is to have installed Hardhat. So I will make a list of the things that you should keep in mind at this time. And just writing those things here on the chat. So we have here this script that you can actually see here. Let me explain a little bit more this. I'm talking about deploy script that will make everything available locally. It's the same that you will have on the testnet, but just for the sake of speeding up the development here, all these instructions are meant to deploy all the smart contracts in the way you actually need, right? So just by doing this, you will get all the smart contracts addresses once the deployment is finished. Sorry, I guess I have okay. I guess I have a problem here I was not expecting, but okay, I guess I saw the error on this script. So yeah, let me point this in a different way. because it seems I'm having a problem here with the code. So basically, if you want to interact with the smart contracts, you can actually take these as an example on what we have done for the NPM package, which is going to be finally the same for any interaction with the smart contracts, right? So you can see here that we have the Ether package to interact against the smart contracts. Everything that you can do can be found on the specific APIs that we are working with. All the APIs are already packed into this NPM package, so you can see them available through all these JSON files that we have available. For example, we are using the controller generation 6 for what we have deployed on the testnet in the Rsk network. And you also can see here how it is expected to be used, right? This is pretty much the explanation. I would like to be consulted anytime through the Discord channel. You can find me there, and also some people from my team are going to be available also through Discord to help you with more questions, and also ways to improve the packages and the things that you will need for interact with against the smart contracts.
Thank you, Messi, for this great, inspiring talk. We want to know if there is any other topic that you would like to ask, or if any of the participants in the audience has any question for you. You can share it on the chat, or as was mentioning, we can share it also on the Discord channel. So you can get in direct contact with Messi. So if there's any question, please share it through the chat, or you can open your mic so you can make the questions to Messi. If you don't have a question right now, you can share it on the Discord channel. So Messi, is there anything else? Yes.
Yeah,
please.
I just wanted to mention something that would be relevant for participants. It's that me and my team, we are going to be available through the Discord channel. So to help the people with the questions, we are able to speak either on English or Spanish. So any team can ask a question in either of those languages, and we will be happy to help them with those doubts.
Thank you, Messi, for this. So for people that speak in Spanish, pueden preguntar en español también a través del canal de Discord, y el equipo de Messi les va a estar apoyando, resolviendo cualquier duda y proviendo cualquier tipo de información que necesiten. Entonces, so if there's not any question right now, so Roberto is asking us on what Discord channel. So you can put your question, Roberto, on the general chat, or directly ask to Messi. Messi, if you could share your Discord username on the chat so people can write you messages as well, or you can leave it on the Charla general chat. So Messi already shared with us his username on Discord. So thank you, Messi, for this. Thank you for having this openness for the participants to write you on the different language. So we are now going to a quick break as well before going into the next part of the session. So we're going to have still some workshops, continue inspiring us with some great keynote speakers, and of course, getting more information about how can we strengthen and diversify our solution that we are creating. Vamos a ir a un pequeño break ahora de 10 minutos también. Al regreso tendremos unas pláticas más para poder continuar inspirándonos y fortaleciendo nuestra idea de proyecto que vamos a realizar en este Bankathon. Si hay algún tipo de pregunta, por favor, déjenlo en el chat. Y como en el break pasado, les pedimos por favor que nos compartan en el chat ¿Qué les pareció interesante? ¿Qué les inspiró de esta plática que tuvimos con Jacob, Messi y también con la intervención de Ryan? Para que podamos continuar la conversación en el chat. So now we're going to this little break, 10-minute break before the next workshops. So we're going to ask you, while you are in this break, to share with us on the chat what inspired you the most, what has caught your attention the most from these talks that we have with Jacob, Messi, and Ryan as well. So if you would like to share on the chat, we will be reading you and we will see you back in 10 minutes. So please be on time, take your time to go for a cup of coffee, a glass of water, a cup of tea if you prefer, to continue enjoying the session. If you have any question, please share it on the chat and we will be reading you. Perfect. So now we are back from this quick break. We hope you enjoyed your little break and have your glass of water, cup of coffee, cup of tea, so you can continue enjoying this session. So before going into the next workshop, I just wanted to remind you that you can share on your social media with the hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon, so you can start making more buzz for this community in the next day. So remember, there is a prize for the social media hero. So don't hesitate to share on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, your favorite social media with the hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon. Por favor, les recordamos que pueden compartir en redes sociales con el hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon para poder generar más voz en las redes sociales y poder hacer más grande esta comunidad virtual. Recordemos que hay un premio para el Social Media Hero para poder generar voz en las redes sociales y que podamos tener más presencia todos aquí presentes. Entonces recuerden, hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon. So now we're going next to the next part of this session where we are going to continue being inspired by different keynote speakers. So now I'm going to welcome these two great keynote speakers to continue inspiring us, and we will be talking more about Credo, custody solutions, and APIs. So I'm going to give the welcome and the stage now to Sanat Demel, who is Solutions Architect at Credo. So Sanat, if you want to take the mic, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, David, and a very warm welcome from the Credo team. My name is Sanat Demel, and as David mentioned, I am a solutions architect at Credo. And I'm going to step you through the process of creating a fund, creating a wallet, and the kind of stuff you need to do in order to interact with the Credo network. But I just want to start by explaining a bit about what Credo is and what it differs from in the marketplace. Many of us are crypto investors or crypto traders. Many of us are retail traders. But Credo is very much positioned inside the financial industry to provide the custodial services to larger institutions like the Banco Hipotecaria. And as a result of that, the way we deploy our solutions is fundamentally different to just having a standard wallet or interacting with MetaMask. What that means is institutions need to adhere to strict regulatory compliance. As a result of that, they have to have an audit trail. Auditing needs to take place on our platform. They have to work with licensed custodians or non-licensed custodian services and adhere to strict compliance in the workflows that they deploy to ensure that they maintain the governance structures in order to meet their own regulatory compliance. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. Let me just stop my video. Right, give me 1 second, and hopefully you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can now see it.
Great. Zoom always goes in the wrong place, the Zoom bar. Okay, good. So in the screen here, you see that I've got my mobile signing app. This is my interaction with my custodial service to approve and accept transactions on the network. I have logged in with via the web UI, but I'm going to start this process by looking at the Credo developer docs, which we have developed specifically for this hackathon. You can find them under hackathon.credo.com. And I think Open Banking have published their own docs, which points back to these docs. So you can access it either way. The reason I'm going to go through this is a little bit basic, but we typically encounter many issues where customers don't always understand the process in signing up. And as a result of that, we have some administrative headaches that we need to solve for customers. It's actually a very straightforward process. And the sign up process will take you through to this page here where you register on the Credo network. The process is very simple. You just go through. I know a lot of people have already done this today and yesterday, but there is one key area that will encourage you to stay focused on, which is when you're pairing your mobile phone and creating your master seed. It's a 24 seed list, and don't get distracted, because if you end up not pairing this correctly, we have to delete the mobile signing app and delete your account, and then you have to start that process from the beginning. Okay, so that's just a little bit of housekeeping. One other thing to mention is there was a small document bug which pointed yourselves not to the play.credo, but just credo.network. I know that some participants registered yesterday, so please make sure that you're registered on play.credo.network so you can access our test environment. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the process of creating just interacting with the Credo network and understanding the process that's required in order to maintain your governance structures, your compliance structures, and move funds and assets around in the network, and also make sure that you interact correctly with the custodians that you've built that have custody or approved transactions within the Credo network itself. Okay. So the process is quite straightforward. You create a company, you create a trusted network, and you create funds to that. And during the process of creating a fund, you normally would create a wallet, so you can create that later on. You add assets into that wallet. Typically, that's going to be BTC, Bitcoin testnet assets, and you can perform a transaction in an atomic swap. Now, as we mentioned earlier, these APIs are exposed via the Open Banking API. So any one of these, you'd be calling the Open Banking API, possibly API 3. And these all reference the Credo endpoints, Credo API specific endpoints. In this case, we are adding an asset, and we can go over here and just flick through them. You can create atomic swaps, approve actions. These are presented very nicely on the via the API Explorer on Open Banking in alphabetical order. But what I'm going to show you here is the developer docs. We step through this in a process so you can understand the elements and the dependencies. And also if you look at the Swagger element, where I'm going to go through that now, we call specific endpoints directly, and that gives us a nice view on how the process works. and also presents it to you in a way that is structured. So you have to create a company prior to creating your trusted network. You can't go on to create a fund or a wallet until you create the trusted network and the company. Those are the interlinks between the dependencies in order to interact with the Credo network itself. And after that, we will carry out a transfer on the Credo network itself. Okay, have I missed anything? No, so if we look at the docs here, we can go through the API overview. I think we're going to go through the partner quick start, and this gives you the process to create in the company and full documentation. Everything you'll need is inside these docs. They were completed just at the end of this week, so they are fully up to date. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I've done here is authorize myself with my API key. When you log on to the Credo network and pair your mobile phone, you can then sign into the Credo network. And after that, you're presented with the web client. This is our web interaction with the Credo network. And if you go over here, you can go to personal settings. You'll be able to go to partner API, and you can basically generate an API key, and you upload that via open banking, the open banking platform, so requests can be signed. Now, I have authorized myself here, and I'm just going to make sure that that works. I am using a special user in this case, where the X-nonce, X timestamp, and X sign are not required. So I'm just going to clear this, cancel, and try it out, execute. And we see that it has received a 200 OK, and we see that I am supporting Bitcoin testnet assets and Ethereum testnet assets on the platform. Now, this is our play environment. We support dozens of other assets on the production environment. I'd encourage you to sign up and have a look for yourself. And but for test purposes and for the purpose of this hackathon, it's not a requirement to support those. I can go on and calculate the fees on any particular transfer. I'm going to say transfer, I don't know, for 400,000 Satoshis, and just click execute. And we go through to here, and we see the fee is 20 Satoshis. Credo charges what is known in the financial world as a basis point. We charge half a basis point per transaction, which is 0.051 of a percent to for the financial people amongst you will understand what that means. Right, so let's go ahead and create a company. Now, I have got some existing configuration here, but I'm going to change this and build my own company. What should we call this company? And the process that I'm going to go through here is going to end up populating the different fields that are required here. I need a company ID. I need to get a fund ID, a BTC wallet ID, an address, and the custodian IDs. Once I have all that information, I'm able to then carry out a transaction on the Credo network. So let's call this, let's call this company, say Gamma Holdings. And we'll say that it's in Paris. We'll just leave that as standard. And we'll just execute that and just make sure that that has come back okay. Yes, it has 200 OK, and I can now retrieve my company ID, and I can paste that in here and keep a record of that. Once I have my company ID, that opens up the possibility for me to go on and build my trusted network. But before I do that, I'm just going to get a company and show you some of the other URLs, other API functionality. Copy that over. Get a company, and we see that we have all these details for the company I've just created. I can go on and update the company and just enter the ID. Actually, I'm not going to update that, so I'm going to leave that standard. I can then go on and search for a company if I've lost the information and I haven't saved the company ID over here. So I'm just going to click that, execute that, and it will pull up a full list of the various companies that are under management on your platform. In this case, we have created Gamma Holdings. here. But we see that I've also got Delta Holdings and Delta Asset Holdings. Various companies have been created. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can go on to build a trusted network. The first thing I'm going to do is just check if there are any trusted parties connected to this particular company, and the answer is 0. You see that here. So I'm going to go ahead and build my trusted network. These trusted network, these participants are people that have signed up to the Credo network. They have a Credo mobile signing app, and what you do when you sign up to the Credo network, you're effectively creating a BLS signature on your mobile signing device, which has to undergo 3-factor authentication in order to release that signature, in order to go on to invoke the Credo service, which then goes on to invoke the MPC network to sign transactions. That complex layers of security to ensure that your crypto assets are secured in the most comprehensive way, but also applies governance controls so that you can meet your internal workflows and compliance. So that was a bit of a mouthful. Let me just enter this company ID, and whoever I've created on this, whoever I'm creating, would need to be on the network itself. So they've already signed up, and you see that they've now received a trusted party request to become a custodian for this particular company. So I am going to enter 3-factor authentication, something I have, which is my mobile phone, something I am, which is my fingerprint biometrics, and something I know. Now, this works differently to other 2-factor authentication mechanisms that you may be familiar with. Just because you see that notification, you click on that notification, it doesn't allow you to automatically approve that. You have to enter in your 3-factor authentication, your biometrics and PIN number before you're able to go in and see the nature of the request. And it basically puts a strict front door onto the application. And then you go on to approve that. And I'm going to confirm that. Okay. Now I can go back here and just verify that I have a custodian, and that looks good to me. And I'm just going to go ahead and just repeat that one more time, because you're not going to have one custodian over your assets. I think we support 384 custodians, and you can meet a threshold of 98 approvals or something like that. That's a bit of an overkill, but typically in the marketplace, we see 5 to 10 custodians on an assets, on a fund, and a threshold required of, say, 5 or 3 to 5 before that transaction can be approved. I'm just going to execute that, and you should see a notification come up again, and there it is. I'm going to view that. Again, I need to enter my biometrics, switch users, and now I can see that request. But before I do that, I'm just going to execute. You can see that that hasn't been approved yet. I'm then going to approve that on my end and enter a PIN number and confirm. Okay, and we'll just execute that again. And you see that Kingston and Edith are now members of my trusted parties for my company. Great. We can now go on to, I'm going to leave holdings. We don't need that for the most part, but I'm going to go on and add a fund. Now, this is probably the most complex JSON call that we make because when you create a fund and you create your custodians, you give it a fund name, you create a custody group, you then can define a custodian policy for at the fund level, which is at the global level, and at the wallet level here. Now, this is inside our documentation. So when you'll see that here about the hierarchies, adding trusted parties to it, and it is inside the documentation that when you create the fund, you are custodial network basically is you have the option to have custodian policies at the global level and at a more granular level at the fund, at the wallet itself. So you see that reflected in JSON here. To another layer of functionality that we've added inside the fund policy and the custodian policy is the fact that we have different policies for withdrawals and transactions. And that's very important to make that distinguishment inside the fund. A withdrawal policy is a layer 1 transaction off the Credo network and invariably carries greater counterparty risk because you don't know exactly who you would transfer into. You get a layer 1 address. And a transfer is defined as a movement of assets within the Credo network itself, within our layer 2 blockchain. And that carries less counterparty risk because you're able to see the counterparty that you're transacting with. So we have directory services built into the Credo network that allows you to see who you're communicating with. So I'm going to use this policy that I've created earlier. I've called it Hackathon Test Fund. I'm going to create I've got these counterparties here, and there will be, I need to do something before I do that. I need to grab the counterparty ID, which is this, and just copy that over. That is Kingston. Paste that here. And also Edith Jones, which I'll paste here. Now, when I create the fund, I need to define the custodians by their ID type. And I'm going to paste that one there and then go on and paste the other one. Copy paste that. Yeah, and that looks good to me. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this. Let's go back to here. Shrink this down. Go back to here and copy that, paste that in here. That looks good, got the correct company ID, and fingers crossed I haven't made a mistake. Yep, and that has worked. We got 200 response. And I'm just going to grab that, so that fund ID, because I will need that later on as we go through the process. And I will close this down. Now that we've added a fund, we can go and do things with that fund. We can go on to look at the wallet addresses, that kind of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't think I am going to do that. I'm going to look at the wallet information, but in order to do that, I need to find some information from the fund itself, because when you create the fund, it automatically creates the wallet ID, and you present it with a fairly complex JSON body. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. These are the most complex parts of interacting with the Credo network. But, you know, fairly straightforward when you understand the format of the JSON. I'm going to enter company ID, create that there, and then the fund ID here, paste that there, execute. And you're presented with that complex information. And if I haven't, I'm just going to search a wallet ID. And the first wallet ID is always a Bitcoin wallet ID. So I'm going to copy that over, paste that here. And I am going to search for that wallet information, because that should give me the address, the layer 1 address, which I believe is this one here. Yes. So now I have what I need. Okay, right. So let's do a transfer. Okay, and in order to do a transfer, I need to deposit assets to the wallet. But I'm not going to do that now because that takes 10 minutes or so, even with testnet assets. It has been working quite slow today. It's been taking me 15 to 20 minutes to get a confirmation. So I'm just going to initiate a new transfer from a company that I've created before, and that is this company ID. You see that all here. And I have created this with a Linux epoch time, which is set for 2 days in advance. And I am going to set a odd amount of Satoshis so that I can look at that more carefully and then execute that. And has that worked? Yes, it has. Okay, so that has worked. But what has taken place here is it needs approvals. So yeah, so once that goes through, I am wondering what's created here. Yep, okay. You'll see that that transaction is actually goes through to my approvers, and then will finally be accepted on the Credo network and gets transferred to the fund that I've just created. So I think this gives you a nice overview of the Credo network. Hopefully that is clear for you to understand. I'm on the Discord channel. You can step through the Swagger profile to understand the dependencies. Of course, the API Explorer gives you the full list with the function of calling it from open banking. There's one thing to mention here. I have discussed the approvals via the signing app here, which is a manual process. And for the most part, I think that is satisfactory. You can create these funds with yourself as the approver, so you don't have to have multiple custodians connected. In the real world, that's how you do it. But also in the real world, for the most part, you'd also have an automated process. So we do have a server-based process, which is called the core client, which effectively becomes a custodian that runs your network. You create it the same way. You're given a custodian ID, which you enter here, and you copy that over there, and you use that when interacting with the Credo network. Okay, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? You still there?
Thank you, Sanad, for sharing this. Yes, we have a question on the chat from Jesus Guzman. He asks us, does Credo support Lightning Network transactions?
I don't know, John, are you on the call?
Hi, yes, I am. Unfortunately, not at the moment, but you can send obviously from Lightning to a standard Bitcoin wallet on Credo, but not a direct Lightning transaction.
Thank you, John, for sharing this this information. Thank you, Sanat. Is there any other question on the chat right now so we can avoid it? Or I don't know, John, if you'd like to continue with your presentation as well, and we will further read more questions. We have one actually now from Gustavo Ibarra. Is it possible to expose the XPub from the fund wallet?
It's not, no.
Okay, thank you, John, for sharing this. Thank you, Gustavo, for your question. If you have any other question or any other remark, please share it on the chat, or you can unmute yourselves and ask directly to Sanat and John. In case there isn't, John, would you like to take the stage and share with us as well?
No, I'm just really here to back up Sanat, but thank you everyone for for asking us to help out with the hackathon. Thanks in particular to all the organizers, and just good luck to everyone. And just to finish up by saying, yeah, Sanath and I and several other colleagues from Credo are on Discord. So if you have any queries during the hackathon, then please just, I think, tag us and we'll do our best to answer any questions.
Perfect, John. Thank you for letting us know. Sana, I don't know if you would like to add something else to continue the conversation, or anyone on the audience has any other question?
I think it's best to wait and see what the questions and how they emerge as they start driving our platform and the requirements that come up. and how to do things. There are a lot of dependencies on the Credo network, and it's different to standard wallets like standalone wallets, because this is very much what fits into the financial industry, and the methodology, the way you think, is different in that process.
Yeah, and it's not so bad once you get used to it. You know, if you remember to create your company, add your trusted network. Probably the hardest part is to create the fund, but you can keep it fairly simple. And then, as Sanath showed, you can get your deposit address, you can deposit assets in from an external wallet, and then once they're on Credo, you can transfer and swap or withdraw, which is moving to another external wallet. So have a play with it and see how you get on, and obviously any queries, come back to us.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Sanath. We have a follow-up question from Gustavo, which is, what's the best use case of Credo DAOs?
It's really a custodial wallet, or sorry, a non-custodial wallet. You create the wallets in Credo, and it's extremely secure, backed by our MPC technology. That was the sort of main use case for it. But we then allow you to do these transfers and swaps that are practically instantaneous between any two Credo wallets, and that allows us to do cross-chain swaps. So I know we're only on the play environment over the hackathon, but what that means is you could, for example, swap testnet Bitcoin for testnet Ethereum instantly. Obviously, with more assets on a production environment, you can see how useful that capability would become.
Perfect. Thank you, John, for answering this. If you have any other question, please let us know through the chat, or as we mentioned before, you can send out your question through the Discord channel general chat, so there we can solve any other question. Sanath and John, if you would like to share with us on the chat your user on Discord, so people perhaps can tag you in case they have any other question. And all the participants, we invite you to follow up the conversation on the Discord channel. A todas y todos les invitamos a seguir la conversación en el canal de Discord general chat para poder preguntar cualquier detalle que tengan sobre la plática de Sanath y de John, o también ya nos compartieron su username para que los puedan contactar o taguear directamente en su pregunta. So as there is not any other questions, we have another question just popping up. So Ryan, is asking, can you explain how the MetaMask institutional works with Credo?
Yeah, so unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use that in the hackathon. What we've done is we've got a partnership with Consensus to integrate the MMI wallet into Credo. And the way it works is in the web application, you create a wallet using our MPC technology, and then you're allowed to connect that to MetaMask. You would use MetaMask in exactly the same way that you do the standard sort of Orange Fox MetaMask. And the key difference being is when you hit the confirm button, normally you'd expect that interaction with your DeFi protocol to execute immediately. However, with the Credo integration, we insert our custodian flow. So that transaction goes to the custodians that have been assigned to that wallet in whatever threshold, in a similar way that Sanath showed earlier, for that transaction to be approved, and then it will execute on the underlying blockchain that you're interacting with. Now, unfortunately, that currently can't be accessed by the Credo API. And there's another hurdle is to actually use it, you need to have a partnership with Consensus and go through their onboarding flow. So unfortunately, can't use it for the hackathon, but it's a great question because it's something that we just launched and we're obviously getting a lot of interest. So maybe something for the future.
Perfect. Thank you, John, for sharing this. Thank you, Sana, as well, for sharing your username. So we remind you the channel is still open here on the chat or on Discord to follow up on questions. And we're going to move forward to the next part of this session. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sana, for this great intervention that inspired all the participants and, of course, gave them more information about how to complement their ideas and how to strengthen their ideas for the Bankathon. So before going to the next part of the session, we want to remind you two things. Just if you want to let us know in the chat what has inspired you the most about this talk that Sana and John just gave to us. What was the main thing that caught your attention? We are reading you on the chat. And also I'm going to take some time because someone on the chat asked us about the official account to tag on Twitter and on social media. So we remind you, please go on social media, your favorite social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and post
the things that you want to share with the hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon, and then tag the following accounts that we are sharing on the chat. So you can tag all the partners and the organizations involved, and we can get more buzz on social media. Si quieren compartir en las redes sociales, recordamos que pueden utilizar el hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon y también taguear a las cuentas que acabamos de poner en el chat para que puedan justamente generar más ruido en redes y poder taguear a los aliados y a las organizaciones participantes. So now, after these 3 workshops that we have today, we're going to move forward to the last part of this session. So we are not having another workshop online, but we have some resources so you can continue inspiring yourselves after this session. So we are going to have some videos. We're going to share the link on the chat so we can get more about the talk that Brendan Gratz shared for us. It's at YouTube. We have different videos. We have one video that you can see here, which is the general topic, and then you can have different demos that you will see. In total, there are 7 videos that you can watch to continue inspiring yourself with these topics and to continue exploring how to strengthen your solution and your idea for the Bankathon. So please go to the YouTube channel so you can watch these videos that Brendan prepared for us, and you can continue inspiring afterwards this session. También vamos a tener una serie de videos que justamente les estamos compartiendo en el chat del canal de YouTube, donde Brendan nos compartió 7 videos que podremos visualizar para poder continuar inspirándonos. Hay un video general sobre la temática y después hay diferentes demos que ustedes pueden visualizar con su equipo para poder continuar fortaleciendo su proyecto y su idea para el Bankathon. So now we're moving forward to the last part of the session, to this wrap up. So today we had a lot of information. We had some questions that were solved. Probably you will have more questions afterwards. So we remind you all the time that the general channel on Discord is open for everyone to ask anything. You have already the usernames for all the keynote speakers that we're presenting today. So you can tag them on your questions and you can have a proper follow-up. Si quieren continuar la conversación, les recomendamos seguirle en el canal de Discord General Chat, donde podrán preguntar en cualquier idioma su pregunta y podrán taguear a los usuarios, a los keynote speakers que tuvimos el día de hoy. So in case you have any other question regarding Discord, how to register your team or any other question, please share it on the chat or through the Discord channel General Chat. So now in these last minutes of the session, we want to remind you what are the next steps for us in this creative journey for the Bankathon. So we're going to have a mentorship session on Monday, 22nd. So we remind you to register your team so you can participate and benefit from all the mentors and their knowledge that we're going to have on that session. You're going to connect with different profiles that would help you to strengthen your ideas and, of course, to perhaps give a twist to that solution that you are already co-creating with your team. Tendremos una sesión de mentoría el lunes 22 para poder conectar con mentores desde diferentes perfiles para que puedan tener experiencias y conocimientos que puedan seguir compartiendo y nutriendo la idea de proyecto que tienen, la idea de solución para este Bankathon. Les recordamos que es muy importante que registren a su equipo para que puedan beneficiarse de esta sesión. If you don't have a team already, you can look for one or look for your member if you are missing one person or 2 persons. In the channel, find a team on Discord. Si no tienes un equipo todavía, puedes buscarlo en el canal de Discord, Find a Team, o bien puedes buscar una persona para complementar tu equipo en el mismo canal. We have some recommendations for the session on Monday, so all the team should be prepared with their questions in case they have a question regarding UX, the design, or the coding, the developer topic. You can always prepare this so you can feel more comfortable with the mentors and have a more agile conversation. As well, to take your own notes, it's important that you take notes of the recommendations that the mentors will give you so you can afterwards apply them to your solution or your idea. Listen carefully. It's very important to listen to the mentors. They have a great experience. You can listen them and then apply all the knowledge that you retrieved from that session. Be active on social media, always with the hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon and tagging all the accounts that we shared on the chat and that we will share, of course, as well on Discord. And enjoy yourselves because it's going to be a great creative journey. Unas recomendaciones para la sesión del lunes para los mentores. Les recomendamos a todos los equipos registrarse, por supuesto, y también preparar preguntas previamente para los mentores, ya sean sobre diseño, sobre UX, sobre desarrollo. Lo que ustedes quieran preguntar, prepárenlo antes para que puedan tener una conversación mucho más ágil con todas y todos los mentores involucrados. Les recomendamos también tomar notas de las recomendaciones que les dan los mentores para que después de la sesión puedan tener estas notas y aplicar estos aprendizajes a su solución. Les recomendamos estar activos en la red social para que puedan compartir bajo el hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon y puedan continuar generando impacto en las redes sociales. Y por supuesto, les recomendamos el lunes conectarse a tiempo y escuchar a los mentores. Ellos traerán diferentes experiencias y perspectivas que probablemente van a nutrir las soluciones que ustedes están creando. So this is the end for today's session, for today's workshop session. We had a great time. So before you go, we want you to share us on the chat what is the most valuable thing that you've learned today. ¿Qué es lo más valorable que aprendieron el día de hoy? Puede ser algo que les inspiró, un nuevo dato, alguna idea que emergió a partir de lo que nos contaron los keynote speakers. You can share with us any learning that you have, a data that was cool for you to know this, something that inspired you from the keynote speakers. So let us know as you leave the session, what was the thing that you've learned today that you find most valuable. And also, don't hesitate to share on social media anything that you want to share about the creative journey that you are living, so we can give a follow-up on social media with the hashtag Bitcoin Bankathon. So we want to thank you all. So as you leave, please leave us on the chat what inspired you the most about this session, or what have you learned today that will help you to nurture your idea of solution for this Bankathon. So we want to thank you all. As always, we want to thank our mentors, our keynote speakers today that inspire us. Thank you for your time, for all the answers that you gave to us, and of course, for all the inspiring perspectives that you shared today. So in case you have any questions, the channels are always open on Discord, and we want to thank you all for your time. Have a great day, evening, depending on your time zone, and we will see each other on Monday for the mentorship session. Nos vemos el lunes para la sesión con los mentores. Tengan un excelente día o tarde, dependiendo de su zona horaria. Entonces, nos vemos pronto y cualquier duda les leemos en el chat. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you to our keynote speakers again. We will see each other on Monday.